All right, gents, there's actually quite a bit to update. So first up with the motor, you can see here I've finally got that all taped up. I have vacuumed that all out, sort of using a customized vacuum piece. That included also cleaning up the head a bit. So you can see these cam covers are all cleaned up now. I've also gone ahead and got some of these bolts for it. This isn't all torqued down or anything like that. But now we have cam cover bolts and washers, which is pretty cool. Also in here you can see some nice blue coil packs. So these are some secondhand split fire coils which I've got off the net. Apparently they're only used 3 times. They looked a bit more used than that, I'll be honest. But fingers crossed they all work properly. I probably paid half price for them, but I wouldn't like to have to do it again if I can avoid it. I took all the spark plugs out, cleaned all down in the journals and stuff there. So the motor is pretty good. One concern that I've got is this. You might be able to hear it even. So that water pump is making some noise, which is slightly concerning. It sounds gritty. I've got another water pump over there which should bolt straight on. It's just surprising because I wouldn't have thought that this one was going to be giving me any grief. But anyway, so the motor is, there's some progression there, which is nice. There's not too much more that's required on this in order to get in. Actually, mind you, the other thing that I did pick up were, these are what they call half moon seals, for obvious reasons. Rubber seals, back of the cam covers, that's all it is. It's just a rubber seal. You've got a gasket that runs through here, and then there's this piece here. These get brittle over time, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. The other thing that I'm actually, now that I think about it, that I'd like to get done is get a oil head drain. So a lot of the time what guys do with these is these oil pools at the back of the heads in the RBs, and then that causes oil starvation and then engine failure. What people do is they take this bung and they knock that out, and then they put a drain that then feeds down into the sump down there. So that's something which I may look into in the future. Moving on, as I said, there's a bit of news today. I had some other videos, but I thought I'd just compile them all in one. So you can see here, these have all been refaced. They're nice and smooth. I've also just cleaned these things right up. They were very grimy. So done sort of the best job I can there. Really interesting and cool part here is, you can see sort of where I bashed them in, unfortunately, but actually doesn't impact the performance of these. What I was using was this or the big mallet on the ground. You can sort of see it there, and then just whacking these things in, which when one side's in and then the other side's sitting down was a bit problematic, because you can see how that piece is sitting out. What this is these are the upper control arm bushes. These are Nismo pieces, which is pretty darn exciting. So I've got some nice Nismo parts on there. But essentially what happens is, you can see here, this is a, oh, hang on, sorry, wrong way around. You can see this piece essentially sits on there. That then connects to the car, and that's just one of your upper wishbone suspension arms. Whilst I was a little bit miffed that I managed to do this much damage to the outside of it here, it actually doesn't play any part so long as this piece in here and this rubber bush does its job. That's the only bad one. The other ones are all fine. But yeah, getting those in was a bit of work. And so I've gone and done that on the other one over here as well. So they're all cleaned up and ready to go. Next up we have studs. So I need new studs first and foremost. It looks as though what I might be doing for this is I'm seriously considering getting some Nismo longer studs. That way I can run some spacers on here to make sure that we've got clearance over the brakes. A little bit more research to be done into that, but I believe that's the route I'm going to go. So that's this component here. You can see here I've got the clutch pedal out. So looking to firstly readjust the clutch pedal and perhaps change some of these bits on the bracket here. But more importantly, the reason I did that was because I bought this guy over here. This is a Nismo bracket, which has basically a whole lot more welds on it to secure it in and to give it better clutch feel. And I suppose a more rigid feeling. These things over here are notorious for flexing and braking, which is why Nismo have created this part. Probably the more ridiculous thing to buy, but I bought that on the assumption that part of the reason why there was unnecessary travel and play in this was being caused by this and by this bracket being broken. Upon sort of closer inspection, I think that's actually okay. So, that's a bit of a classic. But anyway, it's, putting something else new in and then giving this a revamp whilst I'm at it. So, relatively happy with that. We good to see how that gets in. It's a pain in the backside mucking around with that just because there's literally no space under the car, which I'll show you in a tick. So I think that's about it from this side. Just on that, because you've got to take this bracket out, you've got to disconnect the master cylinder from the firewall, so you can sort of see that disconnected in here, and that's where it sits through. So there's a bit of work on my back to down in the footwell to go still on that. So I'm obviously procrastinating. Another really cool little thing that I bought recently, and this was a something as I bought those Nismo bushes over there, I just saw this and I said, well, obviously I need that. You can, oh, did I leave that on? Oh dear, I did. Hang on. That's all right. I had just turned that on just earlier. This right here is a Japanese little LED flare, which is kind of cool. So you can see there, it's magnetized, and as Dixon would definitely know, the 90s JDM Japanese cars all came with flares, and there's a little spot down there for it, and so you can sort of see it there. It's not the strongest LED in the world, but I saw one of these up for sale and I thought, oh geez, I've got to have one of those. There's a perfect little slot for it. You can hear it when there you go, see? So there was always that slot there and I thought, geez, it just was asking to be filled. So I thought that was a cool little touch. All right, back over this side. Something else. Oh yeah, two other things that I got just recently. So this is a really small, random little piece, but this rubber stopper here was all deteriorated originally. So I found one of those that was a couple of dollars or something like that. But nice little upgrade from what we had in there previously. But the more interesting thing is I got a new one of these. So you might remember from my previous videos how frustrating it was trying to get this to line up properly. Ultimately, it's the door card. The door card sags, which causes some... it means that it doesn't align up perfectly. But what I sort of managed to do was with this one here, it's got aligning pins and it's got that little piece down in here which wasn't broken. So I got a brand new one of those. It's got this really nice texture. It feels like $1 million. It's, since you're touching it every single time you get in and out of the car, I thought, why the hell not? So actually really happy with that. It was a good idea, and you can see that sits a whole lot nicer than it was previously. And finally, you can see all the bits down there. Finally, this is the last. There's actually not too much more to be adding to this car, but this is something which I found, which is something that I've always wanted. So I was looking to potentially change the computer in this to sort of a standalone Haltech ECU or something along those lines. Trouble with that is the cost, and then well, it all just comes down to cost at the end of the day. But what it also means is that all of those standalone computers run off. They've got their all their own sensors, I should say. What I did was I found this guy online. This is a little sort of display computer. You can see here, Yashio Factory. So this runs with the current computer that I've got in the car. It goes through the OBD2 port, which you can see there. It's that little sort of grey bit. And what that does is that plugs straight into the factory computer and the factory wiring using all of the original sensors, which means that this will still run with the Niztune computer that I've got in the car, which also, after doing a bit more research, as it turns out, will run the current motor and that motor over there actually really well. There are guys that are doing a lot more complicated things with their motors than I plan to with that one, with this existing computer. So what that means is that at the end of the day, I don't need to go off and buy a brand new computer, and I can stay with something that's got a OBD2 port on there. Just means that it's slightly older tech, but I mean, hey, it doesn't the current one works, so why fix if it's broken? But ultimately, it means that I can also get this awesome piece, which is something that I've wanted for a really long time. So what it does is, and we'll get him to, if he'll do it. Hold the phone.